the ones who yell in a marriage, right? It's because both wanted to work.
Yeah.
The calm ones, you said they're so calm and they never fight, and one day they take an axe to each other, right? So what is it? Is it the passion or the commitment to it?
Because I feel like some couples have like, you see, and this is probably what social media shows you, or no, actually even in person when you meet socially, you see some things going so strongly for that person or for that couple that you feel like, wait, what is our relationship about?
Why do we fight? I'm not saying as a general human nature thing, but I don't fight with my friends. Do you fight with your friends?
No.
So why don't we fight with our friends as much as we fight with each other? I'm saying not just you and me, but since we are talking, you and I. Is it a proximity thing? Is it an intimacy thing? Is it the commitment thing? Because if a friend pisses me off, or I catch myself growing apart from that friend, yeah, I might make an effort, make a few attempts to kind of figure out. But what do you think?
I think proximity and also not being, you're a lot more adjusting and empathetic and understanding of your friends than you are of your spouse because of proximity, I feel. Like you're constantly living with someone and that someone always has, I don't know, like always in your life, right? Unless you have really, really separate lives where like we live together, we work from home partly, we are raising a child together. So I think that there are a lot of times that we're so close to each other that it just gets a bit too much.
Yeah, because I had a roommate for 3 years on and off, the same guy. And he would piss me off, like, dishes or certain habits.
Quirks.
Yeah, but I would just use distance, like kind of just go into my own space. But if you do that in a marriage or even if it's a live-in relationship, then the person who you're living with is like, why are you going into your own space? It's about share, I think it's expectations and a certain sense of pressure for, I don't know how much for the outside world, but for this to work out. Because, I mean, there is, right, this sense of you're going to disappoint yourself or someone else or your parents. So it comes back to the idea of marriage, right? What is the reason why you want to make a marriage work or enter a marriage? I think we spoke about entering a marriage. I think we had a nice episode about that. Sounding a bit like Donald Trump. Like, I think we had a good one. That was a great episode. It was the best episode that we've done. But staying in a marriage, raising a child, these are like sort of pretty old social constructs, right?
And I feel like it's so difficult to stay in these marriages and to stay in these social constructs because you have to put in a lot of effort and there's a lot of compromise when you are committed to somebody, right? I don't know. I feel like it's easy nowadays to be like, okay, I'm done.
There's a way out,
and out of it.
The reasons to, the effort to stay in a marriage is a lot more than the effort you need to leave.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to find the excuses to just say, you know what, fuck this, it's not working.
Yeah, I'm not putting in any more effort.
Or rather, I can be a lot more content on my own.
Yeah.
But see, clearly the commitments grow, right? From whatever the different terms they call it, from the honeymoon phase, from dating, then you get married, then the honeymoon phase, and then you think. But see, the thing is, in your case, in my case, we were friends before we got married. Of course, not old friends, not like childhood friends, and we didn't know each other. But that has resulted in us getting to know each other through the course of our marriage over the past 9 years. And do you think if you had married someone like your childhood, like someone your own age, you'd grown up with, that it would have been easier?
No, I think there would have been other problems. I think there's always going to be some amount of difficulty in any marriage. It's just trying to, like you said earlier, manage your expectations and also be willing to kind of set boundaries and be like, hey, this is not okay for me. And that other person needs to be able to understand that that's not okay for you for whatever reason and not question those things. Because that's what it is. I mean, I think every marriage has its own difficulties. It's just different difficulties.
True, but I want to get to this idea of friends not being so involved with each other, because you have old friends who've stuck with you, and so do I. When it comes to friends, right, it's easy to kind of disconnect and not talk to them for some time, unless, of course, you are seeing each other every day, which, of course, can add more friction. But friends annoy you. You always say, my friend's so annoying. But are there moments where you truly get angry with a friend? Because I think anger, which we kind of use when we're living together, right? It could be something as trivial as, I don't know, is it trivial because anger comes sometimes in a fight, or is it more annoyance manifesting as anger? I mean, is there a difference between the two?
I feel like when talking about friends and stuff, I feel like if you're really if you get annoyed, you can take that distance, right? Like you can spend lesser amount of time with that friend. But if you get really angry with somebody, then you have nothing to lose in that relationship. You're just like, okay, I'm done with this friendship, and you can move on. And we have experienced that, right, in the past. Like we've had friends that we've just moved on from, and I think that's what happens. Whereas in a relationship or in a marriage or in a committed relationship, it is different.
I don't think that's true for me, because when I get angry with someone, like for instance, right, like some idiot in traffic, or like, that's the most obvious example, but like someone who really, like something as simple as something which people yell at, right? Like someone, I don't get my food on the restaurant, or you see someone yelling for these things in actual anger. I get angry at things which I really care about. So I wouldn't, like, for instance, a friend who, you know, who would I walk away from, right? I would walk away from someone, or from a relationship with like a friend or whatever, who really, if it's about apathy, like you really have repeatedly let me down, disappointed me, or you've repeatedly kind of not been who you are claiming to be in this friendship. A friend who, like I have friends who annoy the fuck out of me because they're constantly just looking to kind of argue and debate and kind of get under your skin. But these are friends, we've been together, we've been school friends or whatever, right? So is that anger, is that annoyance, is that these things? Because we all change especially if it's childhood friends, right? As you get older, you take on these things. And I want to also introduce the idea of baggage, right? We have baggage which we kind of get from experiencing the world.
Yeah.
Whether it's the way you view the world, whether it's how you view people, how you kind of take on board new information, and all these things together, you kind of sometimes catch yourself withdrawing from certain friends, and sometimes you just don't want to be with be in touch with that person, and that's absolutely fine. And that's someone you don't really care too much about, or for those reasons I told you earlier.
Yeah.
But some other ones you kind of just say, I'll make an effort, because some friendships you grow together and some friendships you grow apart.
Yeah.
And that's inevitable, right? But is it about lack of effort? Because I feel sometimes you put in effort, but and that's something in the marriage where you put in the effort because you want to make that work, and that's where the friction comes. But in friendship, you can just say, I put in the effort, it's just not happening, because that person might not feel as committed to you as you are feeling committed to them in this friendship.
Yeah, I think every relationship definitely has that give and take, right?
Yeah.
But like, there's not.
And that's where the fight happens.
What?
The ones who yell in a marriage, right? It's because both wanted to work.
Yeah.
The calm ones, you said they're so calm and they never fight, and one day they take an axe to each other, right? So what is it? Is it the passion or the commitment to it?
Because I feel like some couples have, like, you see, and this is probably what social media shows you, or no, actually even in person when you meet socially, you see some things going so strongly for that person or for that couple that you feel like, wait, what is our relationship about? Like,
But that's 3 hours or say 6 hours in a week
Yes.
or in a month, or you meet these people once in 6 months.
yeah,
So it is a highlight reel.
it is a highlight
Yeah.
reel, and it's also similar to what we were talking about the last time in the previous episode, is about, comparing and highlight reel and seeing, only highlights of people's lives and thinking your life is shit.
I like seeing the ones who fight in public also, because I'm like, you know what? I mean, of course, not to the point where they pull each other's hair, but the ones who are what they are at home. I mean, the ones who kind of put up this front to cover up. That's no, I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but that's the ones which aren't. They, again, see, if someone does something like insults you as a couple, like you viewed this, right, in public, someone putting down their husband or their wife, and they're like, it's okay. I mean, first of all, that clearly is a thing that extends from what's happening at home.
Yeah.
But hiding that to seem like, everything's good, glossing over everything is also a problem, right?
Yeah. But I feel like, aren't we also kind of doing that? Like, we just came out of a massive fight, and we weren't sure whether we were going to record this episode at all or not.
And I
But
think
like,
that's why I wanted to do this, because I think one is to begin the process of understanding, and it's a commitment to this podcast, people who are listening to it. And I'm not denying what happened before this. I was upset, and we recorded another full episode and realized there's no storage that upset me even more or pissed me off. But one is commitment to us agreeing to do this together, and I think trying to understand the things, because every time it's kind of a if it's a concept which we don't experience, we can easily say hypothesize on it, like, in case we have, but this is something we're actually feeling in the moment right now. So that's why I want to try to understand it and make sense of why we are doing this with and to each other, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's arguing, whether it's blaming, whether it's getting angry with each other, or kind of taking pot shots, or accusing the other of not doing or doing too much, and is it because let's put it this way, this may be interesting. Is it a growing pain in a relationship? Every time you fight, do you discover something new, or re-establish boundaries, or set new boundaries which you expect from your partner? Or is it a sign of growth in the marriage?
I think it is a sign of growth, because
Or a new phase.
I think it's a sign of growth individually, and I feel that's when it tends to kind of erupt into something else, because we're having our own lives and we're experiencing different things, and we're working on different things ourselves. So like, there will be growth. So for us to come back together and be in alignment, I think again there is that friction, because we have to share, we have to come back to each other in some way. Like, Dia was saying one time that earlier we both were struggling with our work, and we're on the same page, so we feel like we're on the same team. But like, if things start to change, then the other person feels differently. Like, you have to re-establish maybe that connection.
I think it's also you grow, I grow, and then you come back, the relationship has to grow.
Yeah.
Because the relationship is stuck in another, not stuck, but is in another place.
Yeah.
So that does involve friction, and that friction can be managed. Sometimes it's smoother, sometimes it's more explosive.
Yeah.
So good to know. So next time we fight, I'm like, we're growing. It's a great thought to have. Others is like, fuck, I want to have a good one coming up
but
next
then
week.
it's so hard to get through those.
Yeah, see, the idea of
friction
baggage in
time.
this, right? This is baggage. There's good baggage and there's bad baggage, and there's baggage you pick up. Now, of course, baggage has a negative connotation of, oh my God, it's the crap that you pick up as you go along. But it's also the good baggage, right? It's the things you end up liking in life, like the smell of rain on mud, or these are things you pick up and you kind of bring to this relationship. Like, you might enjoy, like say, Sandeep, when I go to the beach in Sri Lanka, I love this view, and you paint a picture which I might not see. And I might say, maybe when I say we go to Dublin and it reminds me of the days of the rainy weather, I have a reason, because it's the baggage I picked up. But I'm saying we bring all these things and we pick up new baggage together.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lovely thing. And this whole idea of why there's conflict or friction it's because of growth. And now sometimes what happens is that you grow because you're in a phase of your life where you're picking up new things, you're picking up new baggage, whether it's discovering a new aspect of how to become a better mother or a more nurturing mother, or you're more actively involved, your team has grown in Ikivi and you become, and then you come back home, you've grown, I might not have grown as much because I'm still just reading my books and drinking my beer, and in your eyes he's not grown as much. So you feel there,
It's not in my eyes.
both ways. You might not feel, but I might feel like I'm left behind.
Yeah.
So that's what's another thing for friction.
Yeah.
So both are growing. See, we can't grow always at the same time, yeah? And we can't grow at the same pace.
But then how do we, I guess we have to be so much more aware, even in these situations,
Yeah.
that this is what is happening, for us to be like, okay, you know what? It's okay. Like this
Yeah.
person's on another path. Instead of be like, I'm done with this marriage. And,
Yeah.
like.
And unlike, in Europe or the US or wherever in these Western things, there is this idea of you leave the house at a younger age, you're out to fend for yourself, you start earning for yourself. So when you do get married, it's your unit. And when you go meet your parents, it's your unit meeting their unit. It's no longer, and you meet them once a year. Here, it's a lot more, it's like the family unit keeps growing, right? You never kind of leave your family and become your own unit. So it's kind of like those interferences also come in. And I'm not saying that like baggage and interference could be good and bad.
And I feel like that may be something that we need to work on, like in our personal.
I think that's also a lot to contribute to it, right? Because we live with my parents.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
great.
So I'm saying.
And when you need solace, you run back, or rather, you not run
Run
back,
to.
run back in a good way. Again, nothing. You kind of take solace in moving in with them for a day or two, just to get a break, which is absolutely needed. And here's the weird part. For me, you just say your parent, that's your break. But I catch it sometimes that I need a break even from that.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, which you didn't let me finish, is that I feel like that's something that we need to work on, is to strengthen our unit.
Yeah.
Because we don't, we let in all these other influences.
Yeah.
And it does affect
So
us.
that support system starts getting claustrophobic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the capacity, say for example, we live with your parents, right? Like the capacity I have to deal with people around me or relationships, anyone, friends, family, your parents, my parents, whatever, is this much. Now, if it's getting depleted with other people and not, it's not, I'd rather save that energy for us. And how do we do that? By having that balance and having that combination
Yes.
of our own unit as well as
That's
the
great.
external unit.
Because I've noticed what happens is when you get overwhelmed by whatever dynamics, right? Whether it's people visiting, whether it's something, your individual relationship with people at home, when you get saturated, you take it out on me.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely fair. Not fair sometimes, but fair. There's also this idea of how you mentioned this, and how about the idea of how I view marriage or the role of a man. So maybe you can talk about how there are certain things you come to a marriage with, right? Whether it's the expectation of how a man should be in a marriage, whether it's the conditioning that you grew up with, how you saw men in marriages and women
Yeah.
in marriages, the roles.
I think it's the external societal expectations of what a man and woman should be in a marriage, and your own internal expectation of what a man and woman should be in a marriage. And I feel like we obviously will have two different outlooks on that, but I think that communication and understanding where the other person comes from and not letting ego come in the way, which seems to be the problem for all fights.
It's very hard though, because
very
you have
hard.
all this idea of these ideas that you grow up with, right? Like you have that guy is whipped, by his partner, by his girlfriend or whatever. He's just got no say in the marriage. And there's truth to it, but also there are stereotypes, right? But I think there is a very...
And you shouldn't fight from stereotypes,
No.
because it is a stereotype.
That's ego, right? Because you're fighting for this perceived idea of what you think you should be.
Yeah.
But the reality is some boys grow up with certain kind of role models, male role models.
Usually they're fathers. And the fathers, especially from our generation, the previous generation obviously had that, the men were providing for families and all of that. So there is that, I can see that hangover still there in this generation where men do have that.
Yeah, and now
feeling.
opposition or a rival thing
To balance it.
but there is, as a result, a lot of guys feeling persecuted, and of course a lot of women felt persecuted for years. So there's this transition phase which has sort of resulted from one end of the pendulum swinging to the other.
Yeah.
So there will be a shift again, but more specifically, like, why did we talk about fighting today is because it's something we did, which was, I wouldn't say uncalled for, but maybe the kind of severity of it was a little extreme. But I like the platform that we've chosen, because it's not that we're trying to give people advice on how to be in a marriage, but I think we're trying to work through our own shit.
I think we can talk about, I feel like one of the things that started off this series of fights over the last 10 days, I think, is again, it's expectation, right? So to give an example, I had something planned for one Saturday evening, and then I communicated that, and then Shasa needed to be taken care of, and then you said you had to play golf. And maybe a lot of times in the past, I've been like, okay, fine, I'll manage it, I'll figure it out, like take the responsibility of figuring it out, like what should we do with Shasa, how do we manage it, maybe I'll go later or something like that. I would have figured it out, but this time I'm like, sorry, I'm going, like you deal with it, right? So I think it started off with that, because you were like, hey, excuse me, all this while you've taken charge of everything, now suddenly you're just throwing it and saying you figure it out yourself, like, but I have golf, like that was your, that's where you came from. So it started off there. So I feel like, I've been trying to figure out a way to let go of control and let go of always taking decisions for everything. And you are feeling that because you're like, hey, that's not what I'm used to. You've over these years done that. So why suddenly you're throwing this? Like, excuse me, you can't do that. But in my head, I was like, I've done 2 years of, Shasa taking care of her and being the first one to take care of her. But I'm feeling like I needed to start doing things for myself, which is why I was like, no, like really put my foot down, even though it was so difficult, because I'm like, I need to start taking these small steps to start doing things for myself. So like we were talking about is that we as a couple, we have our own growth, right? And this is one of the reasons, like I'm feeling like these things are happening to me in my life, and that's why we're having that friction, because you need to come on board to that and understand that in a calm manner. But what tends to happen is we end up yelling at each other.
Yeah, I like the previous recording. I got to speak more, but yeah, I think so. I think deal with it in a mature way, which sometimes I choose not to. As you said, you've kind of gone ahead in the journey of being a parent, and I have to catch up.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really missed my Trump impersonation. It was pretty good. That was a really good episode. It was the best episode. I think this podcast is the best podcast.
Anyway, so
yeah, I think these are things which you will experience every stage of your relationship, in your marriage, right? How you deal with baggage, with growth, with expectations, setting boundaries, how to kind of deal with external, and external is not like the world, but even immediate family, like they come in, they come out. But if you don't have enough for yourself, and the nice analogy here is, or rather the nice metaphor is of a bowl of water. If you don't keep emptying it out, it's going to overflow. Mm-hmm. And when it overflows, you don't have enough to receive, and you just can't handle it.
Yeah.
So you have to keep emptying that bowl. Again, that's another thing Vishnu told me. Shout out to Vishnu. I think Vishnu and Diya should do a podcast between themselves.
Dissecting our relationship.
Yeah.
But I think like doing this episode was extremely difficult when we started, because we had to literally pull ourselves away from...
I feel you sabotaged it by not recording it. I'm joking. My stomach's grumbling. But it was very difficult because we almost walked out doing our separate
ways.
Yeah. Not
in our marriage. Maybe that also, because we said that to each other.
That was visited, yeah. But I mean, I'm not proud of the fight. I'm not using it as a launch pad to kind of say, look at us, how we recover from a fight. We still are upset.
Not yet, yeah.
But this is the beginning, and I'm really glad we have this platform to kind of in a kind of semi-civilized way, in a little bit of a removed way, explore what we are going through in real time. And I think it's a commitment that we are showing to each other and also the people listening. And we appreciate that, because if you guys aren't listening, then, we're just like, are we mental to record ourselves after we fought?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. And
I think that this, apart from, I think that commitment to this has
helped.
And
also, I couldn't find a cab, so I couldn't storm out. It really was, there's no cab, and I was like,
and then he's like, maybe can you book one for me?
Yeah, it was the worst, the most demasculinizing thing, or
something.
Demanizing thing. I'm like, can you book me a cab? I can't find the location. And another thing, I just ordered a grilled chicken, and I'm really hungry. And I was like, tell him to cancel the order. And you're like, okay, I'll tell him. No. I said, don't actually go through it. So anyway, I apologize.
Thank you. Okay, I apologize
Look
too.
at that. Jesus. And
there's still so much that we need to figure out. And then this is like a break.
Yeah. So thank you for allowing us this opportunity to bring this podcast to you. And when there is a week where we don't record, you know the reason why.
And
it's no longer the editor. We have a great editor who's helping us. Shout out to Jyotin. It's probably that we've either gone to a really shitty place where the location is not good to record, or we've had a bit of a disagreement. But yeah, share what you think about these concepts of boundaries, expectations, and growth, and commitment, and intimacy, and friendship, and marriage with us in the comment section. Thanks for being a part of this journey with us. And Nivin, you have anything to say?
Please share it with whoever you think may be interested in conversations like this. But thank you.
Or if you have really happily divorced friends, share it with them so they can have a laugh looking at us going, they'll never
Good
learn.
luck.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.